Chapter 1. The Gap Between Who You Are and Who You're Becoming. There is a version of you that you think about sometimes, not constantly, not loudly, but in the quiet moments, in the car, late at night, in the shower when no one is asking anything of you. That version appears. You know exactly who it is. You've known for a long time. It's the person who follows through, the one who does what they said they would do, even when the initial excitement has worn off and what's left is just the work. The one who doesn't negotiate with themselves at 6 a.m. about whether to get up. The one who shows up for the people they love, for the goals they've set, for the life they've been building. Not only when it's convenient, but consistently, quietly, without needing applause. You know that person. You've caught glimpses of them. On the days when everything clicked. On the mornings you surprised yourself. On the stretches. Sometimes a week, sometimes two. When you were genuinely living like the person you want to be, and then something happened. Or nothing happened. And the gap opened back up. That gap between who you are right now and who you know you're capable of becoming is what this book is about. Most people live their entire lives inside that gap, without ever naming it. They feel it, the vague dissatisfaction that follows them around even on good days, the sense that something is slightly off, slightly out of alignment, that the life they are living and the life they are capable of living are not quite the same thing, and the distance between them is growing rather than shrinking. They feel it when they look at the goals they set 6 months ago and quietly note how little progress has been made. When they think about the habit they've tried to start 3 times now, 4 times, each time with real intention, each time dissolving back into the same patterns within days. When they watch someone else, not more talented, not more gifted, not fundamentally different from them in any meaningful way, building something extraordinary through what appears to be the simplest thing in the world, they just kept going. That's it. That's the whole secret. Not a hack, not a formula, not a personality trait you either have or don't. Just the daily, unglamorous, deeply unsexy act of continuing, of showing up when you don't feel like it, of choosing the person you're becoming over the comfort of staying exactly where you are. The gap doesn't close through intention. It doesn't close through inspiration. It doesn't close through the right book or the right mindset or the right morning routine. Though all of those things have their place, it closes through one thing only: showing up. Again and again and again. Long after the feeling that started it has gone. Here is what nobody tells you about the gap. It is supposed to be there. The gap is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is not evidence of weakness or lack of discipline or some fundamental character flaw that separates you from the people who seem to have it figured out. The gap is simply the distance between your current self and your future self. And every human being who has ever tried to grow has lived inside it. The people you admire most are not people who close the gap and arrive somewhere permanent. They are people who learn to be comfortable living in it, who stopped waiting to feel ready before they started moving, who understood at some point that the discomfort of the gap is not a reason to stop. It is proof that you are reaching for something real. You don't close the gap by becoming someone different first. You close it by acting like that person before you feel like one, by making the choices that person would make. Today, with the energy you actually have, in the circumstances you're actually in. Not in the ideal version of your life where everything is perfectly aligned and you finally feel ready. That day is not coming. Ready is not a feeling that arrives on its own. Ready is what you build, by starting before you are. I want you to think about the gap in your own life right now. Not with judgment, not with the heavy weight of everything you haven't done yet. Just honestly, where is the distance widest? Where is the person you are and the person you want to be furthest apart? Is it in your health? The body you keep meaning to take care of? The sleep you keep sacrificing? The energy you've been running on empty for so long that you've forgotten what full feels like? Is it in your work? The project you keep circling but never starting? the potential you sense in yourself that keeps going untapped, the nagging feeling that you are capable of more than what you are currently doing? Is it in your relationships, the people you love but keep half showing up for, the conversations you keep postponing, the version of yourself you bring home at the end of the day when there's nothing left to give? Is it in your inner life, the person you are in your own head, the thoughts you keep having about who you should be and who you actually are, the quiet war between your standards and your actions that nobody else can see? Wherever the gap is widest for you, that is where this book lives. You can close it. Not all at once, not today, not through some dramatic transformation that rewrites everything in a single moment, but steadily, incrementally, one day and one choice at a time, you can close it. The method is simple. Even if it isn't easy, you show up. Showing up is an act of self-determination. It is the decision, made fresh each morning, to be an active participant in the shaping of your own life, rather than a passenger in it. You cannot control outcomes. You cannot control circumstances. You cannot control what other people do or think or decide. But you can control whether you show up. Every single day, that choice is yours. And every single day, that choice is building something, either the gap or the bridge across it. What changes is not the difficulty. What changes is the decision. You already know who you want to be. The only question left is whether you're willing to show up for them. The gap closes one day at a time. This is day 1. Chapter 2. Nobody feels like it. Let's start with the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud. The people you most admire, the ones who seem to have cracked the code of discipline, the ones who train before dawn and build things and keep their word and show up day after day with what appears to be effortless consistency, they don't feel like it either. Not always. Not even most of the time. The athlete who has run 10,000 mornings does not leap out of bed on morning 10,001 filled with joy and enthusiasm for the road ahead. The writer who has sat at the desk every day for years still has mornings when the blank page feels like an enemy, and every cell in their body would rather be somewhere else. The leader who has carried their team through difficulty after difficulty still has days when the weight of it all feels unbearable, and the idea of doing it one more time lands like a kind of exhaustion no amount of sleep can fix. Nobody feels like it. Not reliably, not consistently, not in the way the highlight reels and the motivational content would have you believe. And the moment you understand this, truly understand it, not just as an idea but as a fact you've made peace with, everything changes. We have been sold a story about motivation that is costing us everything. The story goes like this. Successful people are motivated. They wake up driven. They are fueled by a burning desire that ordinary people simply don't have. They want it more. They feel it more. They are, at some fundamental level, built differently. And that difference in feeling is what produces the difference in results. This story is seductive because it lets you off the hook. If motivation is something you either have or you don't, if it's a feeling that some people are born with and others are not, then the absence of it is not your fault. You didn't fail to show up. You simply weren't motivated enough, and you can't manufacture what you don't feel. So you wait. You wait for the feeling to come. You wait for the clarity, the energy, the burning certainty that today is the day. You wait for the version of yourself that is ready, that wakes up wanting this, that doesn't need to be convinced, that moves without resistance toward the things that matter. And while you wait, the gap grows. Here is what no one tells you about motivation. It is not a cause. It is a result. Motivation does not precede action. It follows it. You do not feel motivated and then begin. You begin, reluctantly, imperfectly, with every part of you still arguing that this is not the right time. And in the beginning, the motivation arrives, not before, not as a prerequisite, as a consequence. Think about the last time you genuinely didn't want to do something but did it anyway. A workout you dragged yourself to, a project you forced yourself to start, a conversation you kept postponing but finally had. Do you remember what happened once you actually started? Something shifted. Not immediately, not magically, but within minutes, sometimes seconds, of actually doing the thing, the resistance began to dissolve. The body warmed up, the mind engaged, the momentum built, and by the end, you felt something you absolutely did not feel at the beginning. You felt like it. That is not a coincidence. That is neuroscience. That is the simple mechanical reality of how human motivation actually works. Not as a spark that ignites action, but as a fire that action ignites. The feeling you've been waiting for is on the other side of starting. It is never on this side of it. There is a word for the experience of not feeling like it and doing it anyway. It's not discipline. Not exactly. Discipline is what it becomes over time. After the choice has been made enough times that it no longer feels like a choice. The word is courage. It takes real courage to act without the feeling, to stand at the beginning of something, the workout, the project, the difficult conversation, the day that asks more of you than you feel you have to give, and move forward anyway. Not because you feel ready, not because the conditions are right, but simply because you decided that who you are becoming matters more than how you feel right now. That is courage. Quiet, private, unglamorous courage that no one will see or applaud. The courage of beginning without permission from your own emotions. And it is available to you right now, today, in exactly the state you're in. How many times have you talked yourself out of something? Not because you couldn't do it, not because the time wasn't right, but simply because you didn't feel like it? How many mornings did the alarm go off and the negotiation began immediately? The internal back and forth that sounds so reasonable in the moment. I'll do it tomorrow. I need the rest. One day won't matter. I'll start properly on Monday. And feels in retrospect like the voice of someone who is slowly, day by day, building a case for a smaller life. The feeling becomes the gate. And the gate is almost always closed. The difference is not that they don't feel it. The difference is that they no longer believe the feeling is relevant. They have decided that the feeling is simply information, not instruction. It says, this will be hard. You feel tired. You don't want to do this right now. And they hear it, acknowledge it, and do it anyway. Not because they are superhuman, because they have learned the only lesson that actually matters when it comes to showing up. The feeling is not the boss. You are. So the next time the resistance arrives, don't argue with it. Don't wait for the feeling to change before you begin. Just start. The smallest possible version of starting. One sentence, one rep, 1 minute, 1 foot out the door. Because on the other side of that first small movement, something is waiting. The feeling you've been waiting for. It was never going to come first. It was always going to come after. Go find out. Chapter 3, Action First, Feeling Second. There is a sequence most people have backwards. They believe deeply, almost unconsciously, that the right order is feel, then act. That you wait until the feeling is there, until the motivation has arrived, until you are in the right headspace, the right energy, the right state of mind. And then, from that elevated place, you take action. It sounds logical. It feels intuitive, and it is almost completely wrong. The sequence that actually produces results is the reverse. Act. Then feel. Move first. Feel the result of moving. Let the feeling be produced by the action, rather than waiting for the feeling to justify it. This is not a mindset trick. This is not positive thinking dressed up in different language. This is the actual, mechanical, biological reality of how human beings generate momentum. And understanding it will change the way you approach every hard thing you face from this point forward. Your brain has a system designed to protect you from discomfort. It is ancient and powerful and extraordinarily good at its job. The moment you approach something difficult, something that requires effort, that carries the risk of failure, that asks you to leave the familiar and move into the uncertain. That system activates. It produces resistance, heaviness, a sudden and compelling awareness of everything that could go wrong. This is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is your brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, conserving energy, avoiding risk, keeping you safe inside the known. The problem is that the life you want to build exists almost entirely outside the known. And so the resistance you feel at the beginning of hard things is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are heading in the right direction. You don't push through it by feeling differently. You push through it by moving anyway and letting the feeling catch up. There is a principle that athletes, artists, and anyone who has built a long-term practice understands intuitively. The first 5 minutes are a lie. When you begin something hard, the first 5 minutes feel terrible. The body protests, the mind resists. Everything in you is screaming that this was a mistake, that you are not in the right state for this today, that the timing is wrong, and maybe you should come back when you're more ready. But if you stay, if you refuse to let the first 5 minutes be the deciding vote, something happens around minute 6 or 8 or 10. The body warms up, the mind engages, the resistance softens, and you find yourself inside the thing, rather than standing outside it, looking in. That transition is only ever crossed by one method. You keep going. Think about what you are actually choosing when you stop at the first sign of resistance. You are not choosing rest. You are not choosing wisdom. You are choosing the feeling at the beginning over the feeling in the middle. You are choosing the resistance over the momentum. You are choosing the person you are right now over the person you would be if you stayed. And the more you make that choice, the more times you let the first 5 minutes feeling win, the more power it accumulates. Each time you stop when it gets hard, you are writing a rule in your nervous system. When this feels difficult, we stop. But it is not who you are. It is who you have trained yourself to be. And what has been trained can be retrained. The retraining begins with one decision, made once, that you stop having to remake every time the resistance shows up. The decision is this: I act before I feel ready. Not recklessly, not without thought, but consistently, deliberately, as a rule rather than a case-by-case negotiation. You move before the feeling arrives. You begin before you are certain. You start before you are ready. And then you let the feeling come from the movement. We do not think our way into new ways of acting. We act our way into new ways of thinking. Every time you act before you feel ready, you are telling your nervous system, this is what we do. This is the kind of person we are. We move when it's hard. We start when we're not sure. We don't wait for the feeling. We create it. Over time, that account grows. The evidence accumulates. And slowly, without your noticing exactly when it happened, the person who acts before they feel ready stops being someone you aspire to be. They become who you are. Your feelings are real. Your exhaustion is real. Your fear is real. Your doubt is real. The point is not to pretend they aren't there. The point is to stop giving them veto power over your actions. Feel everything. Let it move through you. And then move. When you feel the resistance, shrink the action to its smallest possible form. 5 minutes, one paragraph, one set, one honest sentence spoken out loud. Start there, just there. What almost always happens is that the starting changes everything. The inertia breaks, the momentum builds. The feeling arrives, not before you started, but because you did. Not because the feeling came first, because you had the courage to go find it. Action first, feeling second, every time. That is the sequence that builds a life. Chapter 4, Small Days Build Big Lives. We have a problem with scale. When we imagine the life we want, we think in large terms. Big goals, significant achievements, transformation, the kind of change that is visible and undeniable and feels proportionate to the size of what we're reaching for. And then we look at today. Ordinary, unremarkable today, with its small tasks and modest opportunities and the same routines we navigated yesterday and will navigate again tomorrow. And we think, this cannot possibly be enough. This cannot possibly be the material from which that larger life is built. So we wait for the bigger day. While we wait, the days pass. And here is the brutal, liberating, completely non-negotiable truth that changes everything once you actually believe it. The big life is not built on big days. It is built on small ones. Exactly like this one. Exactly like today. Every day you show up for your health, your work, your relationships, your craft, your inner life is a deposit. Not a large one usually. Not the kind that produces visible results overnight. Just a deposit. Small, quiet, easy to underestimate. And every day you don't show up is a withdrawal. The math is simple. The math is slow. The math is absolutely merciless. Over months, the deposits accumulate into something you can see. Over years, they accumulate into something that looks, from the outside, like talent or luck or natural ability. Over decades, they accumulate into a life that other people look at and wonder how it was built. It was built on days like today, on the decision you make in the next 5 minutes. There is a reason consistency feels unglamorous. It is unglamorous. Showing up on a Tuesday when nothing special is happening, when no one is watching, when there is no event or deadline or external pressure to justify the effort, that is not the stuff of highlight reels. It is just a Tuesday. But Tuesdays are most of your life. The exciting days, the launches, the victories, the breakthroughs, those are real. They are worth celebrating. But they are not where the work happens. They are the surface expression of work that happened on all the unremarkable days before them, all the Tuesdays, all the early mornings when no one cared, all the quiet hours spent on something that had no guarantee of paying off. The breakthrough is never the breakthrough. It is the visible evidence of 1,000 invisible days. Today matters, not because something significant will happen today, not because today is special. Today matters because you are either building or you are not. The compound interest of your choices is either working for you or against you. And it doesn't take a day off just because you decided this particular Tuesday wasn't worth the effort. These are the days when the small action feels pointless, when you do the thing and nothing happens. No feedback, no visible progress, no sense that today's effort moved the needle even slightly. These days are the hardest, not because they require the most effort, but because they require the most faith. Faith that the math is working, even when you can't see it. Scientists call it the plateau of latent potential, the period during which nothing appears to be happening, during which the effort seems to produce no result, right before the breakthrough becomes visible. The people who quit during the plateau never find out what was waiting on the other side of it. At the end of each day, tonight and every night, ask yourself one question. Did I show up today? Not, did I do everything perfectly? Not, did I make significant progress? Just, did I show up? If the answer is yes, even if it was imperfect, even if the effort was modest, that is a good day. That is a day that went into the compound. That is a Tuesday that mattered. One day at a time, one deposit at a time, one small, unremarkable, absolutely essential Tuesday at a time. The big life is made of small days. And this, right now, is one of them. Don't waste it. Chapter 5. When showing up means showing up broken, nobody talks about this part. The books about discipline and consistency in building the life you want, they tend to feature a certain kind of person, someone who is fundamentally okay, someone whose life, while imperfect, is basically stable. But that is not always where you are. Sometimes the day asks you to show up, and you are not okay. Not the manageable kind of not okay that a good night's sleep might fix. The deeper kind. The kind that sits in your chest when you wake up and doesn't lift. The grief that arrived and hasn't left. The failure that is still too fresh to have turned into a lesson yet. The quiet, crushing exhaustion of carrying something heavy for so long that you have almost forgotten what it felt like to put it down. And on those days, the broken days, the question of showing up becomes something entirely different. It is no longer about discipline. It is no longer about motivation or momentum. It is about something much more fundamental. It is about whether you believe you are worth showing up for, even when you have nothing to give. There are days when showing up means doing far less than your best. Days when showing up means the bare minimum. Days when showing up means simply not disappearing. On those days, showing up is not about output. It is about presence. It is the decision to remain in your own life, even when your own life is painful. To keep one small commitment to yourself, not because you have the energy for more, but because keeping that one small thing is the thread that connects today's version of you to the version you are building toward. It might be as small as getting out of bed, as small as eating something, as small as a 10-minute walk in the direction of the person you intend to be, when everything in you would rather lie down and disappear. That is still showing up. And on a broken day, it might be the bravest thing you do all year. This is the paradox of hard times. You need your practices most on the days you are least able to maintain them. There is no perfect solution to this paradox, but there is a response. Shrink everything. Don't try to maintain what you built during your best days. Don't hold yourself to the standard of the version of you that had full energy and clear headspace. That version of you is not available right now, and demanding their performance from the broken version is not discipline. It is cruelty. What is the smallest possible version of showing up that you can do today? What is the single thread you can hold, even with everything else falling away? Find that. Hold it. Just that. Because that thread, kept through the hardest days, is what you will rebuild from. It is the thing that says, I did not abandon myself. Even then, even in that, I held something. When we stop showing up during hard times, when the difficulty becomes the reason to stop all the practices, all the commitments, we don't just pause, we drift. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, we move away from the person we were becoming. The habits that took weeks to build dissolve in days. The momentum that was quietly compounding stops, reverses, builds in the other direction. This is not a reason to be hard on yourself for the times you've drifted. You did what you could with what you had. But it is a reason, a powerful one, to fight for the thread, the single small thing, the bare minimum act of presence in your own life, even on the days when presence feels impossible. Not because you owe it to your goals, because you owe it to yourself. Here is what I know about broken days, having lived through enough of them. They end. Not quickly sometimes, not without leaving marks, not without changing you in ways you didn't ask for and wouldn't have chosen, but they end. The grief softens into something you can carry without it crushing you. The failure becomes information. The weight becomes familiar enough that you learn, slowly, how to live alongside it, rather than being buried by it. And when the broken season eventually lifts, what you find waiting on the other side is the version of you that held the thread. Not the version that was perfect during the difficulty, not the version that thrived, just the version that stayed, that kept one small commitment, even on the hardest days, that refused to fully abandon the person they were building, even when that person felt very far away. That version of you is tougher than you know, more resilient than you give yourself credit for. You don't need to be unbroken to show up. You just need to show up as you are. Broken, tired, uncertain, grieving, afraid, and still here. Still choosing. Still showing up. The most important days to show up are the ones when everything in you says, you can't. Those are the days that forge you. Hold the thread. Chapter 6. This is the work. You have been waiting for something. Maybe you've been waiting for the right time, the season of your life when the conditions are finally favorable enough, the obligations light enough, the energy sufficient enough to really begin. When the kids are older, or the job is less demanding, or the relationship is more settled, or the financial pressure has eased enough that you can finally turn your attention to the things that actually matter to you. Maybe you've been waiting for the right feeling, the motivation, the clarity, the certainty that you are moving in the right direction. Maybe you've been waiting for permission. I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear it clearly. The waiting is the problem. Not the circumstances, not the timing, not the feeling, or the permission, or the readiness you've been trying to manufacture. The waiting itself. Because while you wait, this is what happens. Nothing. The gap stays open. The person you are capable of becoming remains theoretical. The life you want continues to exist only in the future tense. Something you will build, something you will become, something you will start. Just not yet, just not today, just not until the conditions are right. And tomorrow becomes today, and today becomes yesterday, and the pattern holds. I want to talk about what the work actually is, not the work in the abstract, the actual work, the specific, concrete, daily practice of becoming the person you intend to be. It is not glamorous. The work is the alarm going off and getting up anyway. The work is sitting down at the thing you are building before you feel like building it. The work is the difficult conversation you keep finding reasons to postpone, finally had, imperfectly, but had. The work is choosing the slightly harder option when the easier one is right there. The work is ordinary, repetitive, often unrewarded in the moment, frequently invisible to everyone around you. The work is Tuesday morning, and it is late on a Thursday, and it is the Sunday when you would rather rest, but you made a commitment, and the commitment matters. And this, exactly this, not some elevated version of it, is what builds a life worth living. I want to address something that might have been quietly present throughout this book. The fear that it's too late. That the years already spent in the waiting, in the drifting, in the broken seasons and the false starts. That those years are a debt you can't repay. That the gap has been open too long and too much time has passed, and the person you could have been is no longer accessible from where you are now. This fear is a lie, a seductive, persistent, deeply convincing lie, but a lie. It is never too late, Max, to show up. Not at 40, not at 50, not at 65, not after the failure, not after the years lost, not after the seasons of drift that took you further from yourself than you ever intended to go. The starting point is always now. Not a better now, not a different now. This now exactly as it is, with all its complications and imperfections and the weight of everything that came before it. You have everything you need to begin. You have always had everything you need to begin. The only thing that has ever stood between you and the beginning is the decision to make it. What does showing up look like for you? Not the whole vision, not the complete transformation, just the next step. The one thing clearly identified that the person you are becoming would do today. What is it? A phone call made, a page written, a body moved, a conversation initiated, a habit begun, not perfectly, not with ceremony, just begun. One small, real, actionable step in the direction of the life you keep imagining. That is it. That is the whole assignment. I want to leave you with something. Not a summary, not a list of takeaways, just a truth that I hope lands somewhere deeper than your thinking mind. Nobody is coming. No one is going to arrive and hand you the life you want. No circumstance is going to arrange itself perfectly enough to make the beginning easy. No version of yourself is going to appear, fully formed and finally ready, to take over from the version that has been waiting. It is you, right now, as you are. The life you want is not a destination you arrive at. It is a practice you show up for. Every day, in the small moments and the large ones, on the broken days and the bright ones, in the seasons when everything is moving and the seasons when nothing seems to be, consistently, imperfectly, without waiting for the feeling or the permission or the perfect conditions that were never going to come anyway. You show up. You show up for the workout when the alarm goes off and your body says no. You show up for the work when the blank page says nothing and the resistance says everything. You show up for the people you love when you are tired and depleted and have already given most of what you had. You show up for yourself, for the quiet commitments, the private promises, the version of you that only you can see, even when no one else would know the difference. You show up broken, when showing up broken is all you have. You show up on the Tuesdays, especially on the Tuesdays. This is the work. There is no other work. Now, go do it.